Hello Blender folks, here we go again. And so this is another attempt. Now I have a concrete plan. I have an application that I believe should work for the dynamic wave thing. That is more likely, if you see in the video description, I'm referring to a tutorial, actually to this tutorial. It's a 6 years old tutorial on pelvis rigging. It actually used some bone from this guy George Bernier on 5D, and the cool thing, just gonna show you, there is some, what interests me is this buttock bone or bones, and what I've already tested this tutorial a long time ago, last year when I was still learning rigging, and I believe now I know how to improve it, this generic idea, because one problem of it is that something that is recurrent to complex joint rigging, and which is the fact that if I have a bone here that rotates, that has got drivers, even though we can certainly control its influence when we can manipulate. A lot of things can be automated, and we can even leave it to be posed manually, which is not a terrible idea, but it's actually not what we want for this kind of deform rig, right? We want automation for the ideally we wouldn't like to do any sort of corrective method. So the problem is that this bone, it's a deformed bone. I don't have it now. I'll create one. So even if it stands still on some, as I did on a tutorial on complex joint rig, right, for the pelvis, it sustains its deformed bone quality, but the wave painting is there, so it's taking off ratio. It's implementing the ratio, the final ratio for the thigh, the buttocks, the pelvis region, and this is what we do not want, because maybe we can even achieve a good deform there, but at some point when we need to solve the other direction or side direction, whatever, or even dispose, then this ratio is a contamination. So this contaminated ratio with a helper bone that we'd rather, if we didn't have that ratio variation, if we didn't have this additional vertex group influencing on the leg or the pelvis and some other posing, it will be good. But then the tendency it affects negatively the other transforms, and of course in a symmetrical way, because right, it's a ratio, wherever the leg goes, the ratio follows the wave painting, and the wave paintings, the vertex groups. However, with the method that I'm using I'm still daring to call revolutionary method, of course I know what this means, and you should understand, this will change the ratios. This will change the wave paint, so I can suppress, without destroying the helper bone, I can suppress its wave paint completely when I want, or at least according to certain transforms that are mappable. And so this is the plan I have here. There is no guarantee it will work 100%, but in theory, one of the big problems of that tutorial that is in the video description, you can check, and that also is one of the pelvis rig complex joint tutorial that I've made last year, for example. One of the problems was precisely that, as we've made the deformed bone for the front, Then we made a deform helper bone for the back bending and even for the side bend, sometimes more than one. What happens is that these vertex groups, additional vertex groups, they'll contribute to the ratios of on the vertices for the deforms, right? And these ratios will never change. They will be everywhere all the time. And now we have, so this stiff, it's not static, but now the vertex weight mix, or perhaps this also could help some other ways, but currently I'm focusing on vertex wave mix. This allows for dynamic wave paint. This means that I can transform in real time as I can drive, right? I'm currently driving the global influence. Here we could drive this too, but I've decided to drive here. So what we're gonna do here is that what you see here happen, we'll see this in real time. Hold on. This is the bone that is the def leg type left, and this is being affected by an orphan vertex group here, def leg type back left. All right, there's no deformed bone here, so it's a neutral vertex group like the one you would use for an object modifier, and this I'm using to change, to affect directly the substance of the vertex group here. It's like a transform in the vertex group wave paint. That's exactly, but it's not destructive. It's just temporarily, as long as the modifier goes on. So what's happening here is that, of course, this was a first attempt that I was streaming. I've made a few experiments before, but and then I knew this was powerful. This is this is unprecedented, folks. So you see the wave paints are transforming. The problem is that I've mentioned it in a previous some previous presentation that I did that in actually, is that I do not have only changing the waves, although you see this preserves the waves of the buttocks. So this is the natural way as it is deformed, and you see there's volume loss, there are horrid artifacts there, could be fixed on some other ways, right? But of course this is a very radical rotation for this bone. And so as I give the vertex wave mix, what I'm doing here is that I'm taking off, I'm subtracting from this vertex group as a reference. Oh, there's a bone here. There's a vertex group here. Let's delete it. It's probably not affecting. It's orphan. Something that I missed to clean up. Okay, let's go back. So I know there's a vertex here. Hold on. Let's add the screencast. Okay. So I know there's a vertex here. So this is here is my reference. This one that is the vertex group B in this case, which will subtract from vertex group A, which is the type deformed bone, right? Regular, this one. So this is the one that is changing, the vertex group A, vertex set. This is the one that is being affected, and it will be subtracted according to the global influence that it's being driven. So the driver here is pretty simple. I just did it very fast. So it uses the X rotation of this helper, this other bone here, which is just a mapper for this real X. Yeah, because I was having a problem because of the role of this bone. The X-axis was too. It was going crazy, so I created a new bone and used some sort of copy rotation on some So this bone, where it is, yeah, it's more neutral, right, on the rest position. So it's more it's a mechanism bone. So just because the driver was failing because of the X rotation. So if the X rotation of the thigh was tilted in some ways, an expected problem, then I could solve this by having this bone as a mapping reference for the x-axis rotation only, and of course this uses owner space, so it won't it will sort of copy the rotation here, the x-axis, this motion of this bone, but it will remain, it will use its own axis, so it will do the rotation that I needed to map the x-axis rotation for that driver. I would prefer not to use drive, but in this case it's necessary because I needed to drive this influence. And so you see that the driver changed, and what it does is that as the thigh bone, or that little bone which represents that thigh bone rotation, actually what I want of the mapping, as this rotation gets up more there, this is a positive rotation in that case, it will subtract more. Yeah, there is this influence. The influence grows, so there is more subtraction of that region that is wave paint. Yeah, so this is this one, the extra orphan vertex group, which is subtracting. I can change those things. I could do add, but then it will be there are other things that everything there is a bit hard to use. So in this case I just want to subtract, and then what it does, it subtract literally waves. You see, it even becomes black there, and the more the influence grows, the more it tends to subtract. But the problem is that this subtraction, this changing the ratios that occurs on those vertices, of course, which is something related to those two bones which are sharing waves there. But the problem is that I don't have a leverage system for the buttocks, the region. So what happens, the gluteus maximus, or the muscles, whatever there, they okay, I can do that, but since I do not have any other system, and the algorithm, skinning algorithm, makes that the joint of the thigh bone, which is pivoting right there from this point, this doesn't do anything there, right, in terms of leveraging this mesh, nor the spine bone, this bottom one, does nothing. So I don't have a natural motion here that would, so even though I can avoid certain volume loss there totally, but then not on the thigh, because the thigh is a different, it's more complicated. But even if I preserved all those volumes, there will be a lot of interpolation because there is no pushing up. So I need another system of armature deformed. This is rain outside. And then this is where that particular tutorial comes in handy, because there's other ways to do so, right? But I remembered that tutorial, and I thought for a real application of this vertex wave mix modifier for it. So instead of doing it for this bone, I'll just neutralize this. Instead, what I'll do in this time is that I'm gonna create a new bone, a buttocks bone for the right, for the others, for only the left side, of course for both sides, but I need to find, okay, some adequate orientation, right? So I want to, okay, let's use this one. Okay, align. So this is gonna be buttocks left, so helper bone, no, def, buttocks, could be leg, buttocks left. Okay, so this is the helper bone, similar to the tutorial. So also Royal Skies, the guy with a lot of tutorials on rigging, fast tutorials, he has some input into this idea of a buttocks bone. So let's symmetrize this just to have something like that, and then I will parent this to the offset to the thigh bone. It's a, and what we'll have here, maybe we can make some, this doesn't matter too much, I think. So let's, what we're gonna do is that, so this is be the deformed bone that it will leverage the buttocks, but as the thigh rotates on other directions, and not this one, this will, the deforms that this bone, helper bone, will carry out, they will be different. So currently there are no, yeah, so we see there are some strange rotations there, and this is something I wasn't able to fix. So maybe instead of just leaving it parented, I perhaps will just do something instead. I'll make a copy rotation, the way that with some, yeah, so let's use local space with owner orientation, no, local space with parent, no. Yeah, so this will be a bit more complicated. We'll have to make some, the problem is that I parented it there, so okay, so this is certainly, it's not deforming yet, so doesn't matter. Okay, so let's see, local. Alright, so it's something like that, except that these, well, I have this keyframe. Alright, so it's really bizarre. You see there's this tilt. So oh, the parenting, of course, it's the parenting. The parenting is, let's clear the parenting, and now the local rotation on, no. Alright, let's do something else then. I'll use, for of course I'm gonna fix this if possible, but then I'll gonna use again this bone as a mapper, right? Although there will be some problems if I were to rotate, let's see now. Okay, okay, now this is the motion that I would like to have for it. Of course there's no lateral motion. This could be, yeah, this is probably not good for the final rig, I mean, because it would, but it would simplify some stuff, right? Perhaps we wouldn't want lateral deforms anyways, but probably that could be relevant for now, because I'm just using these. What if I use local space, just local space with parent, let's see. No, bad idea. Local space, what about this? Local space with parent, also no. So local space with owner orientation. This is more likely. Does it rotate? No. Sideways, what about owner local with parent? Also no. Okay, never mind. Let's just do the basic here. So that would be, the other one doesn't matter. Well, it will be annoying, it will still be affecting, but whatever. So let's keep the local space and let's keep it simple like that, right? Okay, so that seems good enough. So should I rotate it starts like that, or as I mentioned, this probably doesn't matter, it's more visually. Um, yeah, so because it's more visually, let's already do it in a way that sounds better. So because the rotation that I use is very radical, I probably want this to be somewhere like that. And then no, a bit more like here. Alright, and also let's make it a little more, and let's scale it a little more. That's it. And then the BB scale BB would be that one. Alright, so we can assess what we would be wave painting better. Alright, so the purpose of this bone, remember I have disabled that, so we're gonna make a new one. But first thing, we're gonna see what this extra bone, helper bone, will do to the mesh. So this is a beginning of using helper bones for armature deform techniques. Okay, so probably I want to affect the ratios on all the buttocks region. Maybe even there, up there would be some consistent transforms. Then here probably we would just like to have some slight influence, maybe not at all, I don't know yet. But because this is not a bone that will be rotating a lot, at least it not be if it rotates a lot, of course it will rotate a lot, but will not allow that its wave paint be functional with the same intensity, and they will be completely suppressed on some situations of the posing. So this means that we will not allow this deformed bone to affect with its rotation the mesh. And so this is a very, very sophisticated method, dynamic wave painting. It's I think that it should have lots of applications in organic rigging. The problem is that it's not simple to know exactly what to do with this tool. This is a very powerful tool. I was looking for that some time before, and I thought it was impossible, that it required scripting or additional. Okay, so you see here that I don't know what's happening there, so let's suppress this, because okay, of course what's happening is that this bone is really, you see, it's already driving the mesh crazy, right? So this is the effects of the change of the ratio of a bone like that. It's very easy to screw up. Of course I could move it, but I'm not doing anything like that. I just want to see what we can do regarding the rotations. Alright, so the problem is, of course, something that I forgot, is that this model might be not the ideal one to make these experiments, because the rest position for the mesh of my character is this one. The rest pose is the legs, like a T-pose for the legs. However, and this is what is making these deforms. This is making that as the bone reaches, the deformed bones reach that rotation we saw there, it's already rotated a lot. And so this is a little problem for my own experimentation here. And so you see, it already causes all that. So maybe I need to reassess this thing. Yeah. I'm thinking what I can do in such circumstance, because this will make my attempt impossible. If the leg was straight and the rest position was straight, it would be better. Now it's just making horrid deforms into that direction. It doesn't matter the bones. This bone doesn't matter its starting position, because it's not something about the bone itself. Oh, the bone rotates, all that. Yes, in part it is, but it's the starting condition of the mesh, the rest position for the mesh. This mesh, as it deforms with deformed bones rotations, at some point that rotation of the mesh will reach a too high value, like nearly 90, and it will be disrupted. Otherwise it will be too easy. Oh, just change this rotation there, right? So an unexpected problem again. I could, but I won't give up. Yeah, I should have made the attempt with the legs. If I can repose this, yes, we can do that even on this file. Actually, it's just I'm afraid this could mess up the read. We could try. Yes, we could try for simplicity, but hold on, I think something yet can still be done in this situation. So there is no leverage for this case. Rotation wouldn't do leverage, right? Well, in some sense, yes. I need to, let's try to get some more wave painting to that region. We already did that and that was terrible, but maybe that will be the way to get this mesh react properly. And so we take off some waves here, and we will attempt, let's use some average here to manipulate this mesh here, and let's see if now I can. Okay, so there's a lot of transforms there to the mesh, lots of volume loss, and okay, so instead of leverage, what you see from these things is that this rotation is like a black hole. It's pushing everything towards the joint itself. So not really in terms of leverage. This is sort of doing the opposite of what I want. So maybe this idea of a deformed bone rotating, which I usually avoid to make deformed bones rotating, because they, as much as they rotate, some slight rotation can be beneficial, but then yeah. So we see that to try to save this this experiment here, because there before I make the legs straight, right, what I can attempt to do is like perhaps change the influence here. This could be driven, right? Copy rotation. Why this is not responding? I'm on. Okay, maybe it thinks it's keyframe stuff. Oh, the parenting, of course. So apparently, yeah, the parenting does all the jobs. So we'll have to do something about the parenting right now. yeah, let's clear parent, and instead let's use these. Yes, so copy rotation. Now we can assess these, of course, local space, except right, it will be something like that. And it's possible that there are some differences. It will be hard to see here. No, we don't see. I think it's indifferent. So for this case at least. So then, yes, let's reduce this influence. Wow, why this rotates so? Copy rotation to type, copy rotation to bone. Oh, it is, okay. The rotation is being limited, of course, we see it. I was looking at the wrong place. Okay, so what we see here is that, yes, with the influence change, I now have this slighter rotation, so this doesn't disrupt the mesh so much. And of course, this hardly solves my problems, right? The rigging problems. But it already gives some idea of leverage, right? So, okay, so this is fine. Now we can drive this with not the influence of the rotation. I mean the influence of the object modifier that we'll create in a moment. We'll just play a little with that. So on the other rotation, this deformed bone is not really making a horrible job. Actually, let's see. If we pick this position, this bone actually, and take this off, yeah, you see, no big deal here. So this small amount of rotation is not for because of this rest position, also for the mesh. It's not affecting too much there, but it's also not correcting too much there. It's very slight adjustments of the buttocks. That just before that, let me combine this stuff, right, with this thing. Let's see if this. Okay, no, this does nothing. All right, nothing relevant enough. So the problem here is that I expected that this bone's rotation on its own will create this sort of leverage. I was very wrong about it, and so I think this is pointless to continue. If it because it's rotating too much, and the leverage, it's clear that the leverage, although it can help with the other by rotation, leverage by rotation, won't solve that part apparently. It stretches. It doesn't stretch enough, of course, in part because there's no influence there yet. So let's do some test here. I can push probably this mesh if I have this kind of influence. This could be interesting actually. Let's see let's see what that does. Yeah, let's do something more radical here, just to not multiply but mix. Yeah, always very dangerous working with this thing. What about reinforcing here? Double check directly. Also no. Okay, so no leverage here. So the only moving is much better, right? For usually, of course, slight rotations, but in my opinion, for most critical issues here I can stretch, right? So, but this is nothing. This is not the thing that I was experimenting. So, if I don't have leverage here through rotation, I cannot complete the attempt that I was doing. So what I'm gonna do is to simplify. In order to simplify this thing, I'm going to, okay, let's reset the pose. I'm gonna make what scares me to death. No, it doesn't scare me, but it's annoying because I know I have more reasons that it becomes complicated, not only because of cloth that will be disrupted, but anyways they are hidden. So what I'm gonna do is that I know a technique. Let's apply it here. So hide this. Let's select all these mesh. Let's create a vertex group here that will be group whatever, assign. And now I'm going to get the mesh. I'm going to save. I'll get the armature to be duplicated. No. First of all, I need a new pose, right? So yeah, it will be that pose, exactly that one. I want this to be the rest pose. Actually, even, why not? Even straighter legs, since we are... No, it will give to... let's leave it like that. So then armature, duplicate armature, apply oh, hold on, I forgot. So it's the opposite in this case. So I have a vertex group there. Let's oh, but because I want to change the legs, is the legs that... So I don't need to make the vertex group things here. Okay, so let's do straight the simplest way. So then we pick the bones, we get here, and we just apply selected. No, we just apply everything. So apply. Hold on. What are... Okay, so the mesh is there indeed, and then we need to pick the armature and pose, apply, pose as rest pose. There we go. So maybe something got broken. Let's see how is the mesh split. It's a recurrent thing that happened to me. We can see if there is some anomaly. Now this is a bone. Let's see. No, it doesn't seem to be split. Okay, so it didn't split. Okay, fine. And I changed the rest position for the leg. Fine. Now this suggests that the x-axis for this bone is better, and this suggests that that extra bone wouldn't be a problem. That suggests also that as I pose here. Of course, here this pose will be worse now, the front bend, but that's not the problem for us here. Now let's, but this form should be better, which is not exactly the case, right? Maybe it's slightly better, slightly less worse, I mean. So let's make some changes here, updates on this posing, because currently it's a bit messy. Let's go back here too. Here could be that. Here could be that, and that's it. Take off the option. And so let's see if now these bones, they do anything. Let's make another save here, because this will be okay. Now the rotation of this bone, if I augment its rotation, shouldn't be that critical, right? Yeah, it shouldn't be. Of course, on the other side now it starts to be horrible. Actually, yes, it's clear why it is hard. Remember the rest position before, the leg was somewhere like here, so it was closer to that frontal bending. And now with the straight legs, they have a longer rotation, the mesh of the leg, to reach there, so that's why. But for the back bending, it should be slightly better. So okay. So now you see that rotation doesn't need a lot of stuff here, but it's not like it's the same problem of leverage, so, except that now I have a deformed bone that is transforming that mesh, right? So the method of having a bone there, maybe the wave painting, I should make it different, right? So there are a lot of questions to address, but in principle we have this volume loss, and it is clear to me that this is rotation, and this should be fixed probably with leverage stretching, right, of the mesh. So, and a mechanism that would stretch and not simply rotate, joint rotate, right? So, and there are different approaches to that. So let's go back to our modifiers. Let's look at this thing and see if there's anything that we can let's see what's happening here, right? All right. What can we do from that? My conclusion so far is that at least the way I've done this bone, it's not levering, it's not doing what I was expecting it should do. So it's like it's not helping the way I wanted that helper bone to help, and so my idea is that it got the buttocks region fine enough so that the only thing that I would have to fix would be that outer rotation, right? Just by taking off these bones. So that was the simple idea that I was willing to get. But I'm confronting here with a much bigger problem, which is that to solve the buttocks here, I need to reassess my understanding of those tutorials, and more than once. I know they can sometimes have some good results there. Even I have a solution for that using these ones. So if I cannot solve this right now, it's useless for me to try to solve that, right? It's pointless. The suppression here that is already occurring, it's less than 0 in the driver. So global influence negative is like 0. You want to see what will we do. Yes, so let's do the following. I'll change hold on, what is it? It's a buttocks. Okay, so this time it is this one that will, I'll just totally change this one. So instead of, no, made up my mind, I'll duplicate, I'll hide this one. This will be the buttocks, that will be bone, deformed bone, so it will be affected by some other vertex. Yeah, could be the same, why not? The other, I mean, of course the question now is which vertices I would like to take off, right, from this bone, right? So I could repaint this or create another vertex group to, let's see, do I have any other thing here? I have type back hips. Yes, I have another one, so we could make some sort of wave painting here. Wait, there's a hips and type back and buttocks. So why we have, okay, this was also a remaining from an older experiment, right? So we're gonna use this one to play with this deformed bone, and this one, yeah, type back is this stay unoperated. So we're gonna paint this one, which is this, and we'll see, and the idea will be the subtraction, or let's try adding, right? Influence, of course, is bad. We're gonna copy the driver, copy driver, and paste driver. Okay, it's here, it start to grow. Not exactly as I want. Maybe there I need to var plus, why not, plus 0.2. Alright, so here it's 0, then it start to grow until maximum there. Okay, that's fine for me. And let's see. If I take this off, okay, this adds, right? What if we added some waves here? This now has become an adding object modifier. It will add a lot here for whatever experimental reason, and that's it. Let's see. Okay, let's see what it happens to this bone. Yeah, so you see it's transforming. I see incredible potential of this. I just don't know yet how to use this properly. Make sure that the armature deform is below those ones, otherwise the mesh will otherwise there will be, the colors will change, the vertex will change, but they won't be how do you say, processed by the armature modifier, and so everything will be lost. So you need to have the armature modifier after it's like, that's it, so after. And so okay, we're playing with that. This adding a lot of influence there didn't really help a lot, so let's change this for Replace? Replace. Oh, replace gradually. Yes! This is a great idea. I had this idea before, but I was playing with the rest. So I was playing with subtract. Replace. You understand what that means, folks? Gradually replace, like it's a complete replace, one by the other, right? So it should be that, right? Just to make sure, let's see what is the, this was the original one. Here it's nearly 1, even more than 1, so this is the original one. For actually, no, this is the deformed armature one, and this is the shape, the waves of the other. As we reach on a value of 1 here, about 1, you'll see that as I will select this, the deformed bone, and it's we didn't see much changes, right? Because it was already completely transformed. It's nearly like this replaced, right? This vertex group of the deformed bone became the was replaced by this vertex group of the orphan vertex group. So this is even more simpler to use, in my opinion. Maybe there would be than the subtract. This is giving me some crazy ideas, folks. Because this means that I can change the type. Perhaps I can change the, I can play with the type only according to my requirements, sort of. And so if the, however, there's something we must be careful about, is that, you know, the ratios, how they work. If a vertex only has one bone, deformed bone's influence, it doesn't matter if the influence of that single influencing bone is 1 or 0.0001, it will be the same. It will be ratio of 1. So this suggests the following, folks. There should be other bones sharing the influence with the type bone in this idea. Maybe a buttocks helper bone, or maybe just the spine bone on the knee bone, I don't know, whatever. But let's assume a spine bone, it could have influence everywhere. Then we could reshape the type bone according to, or on an opposite way, take apart the ratios, but change the ratios, but not from this, the type itself, but from the other influencing bone, right? The important thing, however, is that there are some dynamics between those two influences. If they are matching influences, like if you have a deformed bone, like the type that is doing this rotation, and then we have another helper bone that is exactly like the type, you change the ratio, take off ratios, that won't do anything really, because the deformed bone is really nearly the same thing as the other bone, so it's like useless. We need variation, and this is the thing that starts to get complex. Okay, so what we are doing, so let's go back to these tests here. And so replace, yes, I was crazy about this idea of replace. Let's put subtract and see what craziness goes. Alright, so what's happening now is that, you see, this final result we could simply obtain with replace. I just have to know what I would like to have, because subtraction would be more difficult. there are many reasons. If start to play, I cannot explain right now, but there are many reasons why it's not so simple to control. There is this thing going on, then because we want dynamic, right, wave paint, there is the amount of waves on the original mesh, the bone, right, the original deformed bone, and then there is the original amount of waves on the orphan vertex group. And in this case, it's too similar to the other, right? So but these reductions, the subtractions will occur in a manner that is sort of uncontrollable. Even this, if it stacks too much subtraction, can cause, don't ask me how that would happen, but yeah, it's not like if I have a lot of things here, it will subtract a lot, even more than 0, but that won't affect. Once it's 0, it's black, right? And so it's not very simple to control, right? So let's see here what this change promoted. We see that, of course, I still have problem with leverage. No vertex group change here will promote what I want, because these transforming deformed bones, they are not doing the transforms required to change, to deform these portions of the mesh the way I really require. But it's interesting nonetheless. Let's see whatever. I'm just playing around here, seeing. Yeah. So. Yeah. No. It's what I want to change is that one. Okay. Let's subtract everything here. Yeah, so you see we subtract everything there. Of course this bone is there exactly, could be there exactly to promote new waves there, not to so I'm doing something crazy here, so let's not have these things so strong. Instead, let's see if we can have, okay, so the subtract, then we could play with the replace, right? This is the curious thing, and then multiply. I really don't know about the others. Like, okay, multiply, it's like merging them in some strange way. Add, okay, add will add up to 1, right? So, and there is this normalization that I don't really. I think this will affect the vertices, right? So that all these vertices, this will change a lot of things, because my wave paint is not normalized anywhere, so not gonna use that. Difference, which I don't particularly understand. Average, yeah, I think I have an idea about average. It's more for smoothing out stuff, right? And finally, well, there are maximum, I don't know what's that. Minimum. Yeah, so let's use the replace, because I think this is the most curious thing. What we could do here is okay, this. So it's quite abstract, right? It's not, despite being extremely different approach, right? It's quite abstract with the, at least the way I'm presenting, right? So It's not like we can solve, oh, now we can solve that. No, I can solve nothing yet, but I'm sure there would be very good applications for that. But I need at least to achieve something of great value with that. Alright, so the replace currently, oh, I need to go back to that vertex group. Okay, so now I'm gonna make the replace, right? Let's see what could be a, we can go totally crazy with that. The replacement seems to be the most interesting one in some cases. So that replacing, okay, this will cause the mesh to go inside, right? So this is bad. Let's see here, and then let's subtract there. And of course I should probably use some smooth whatever factor, iterations, expand or contract, whatever, let be it. And select this and see the transformation, the useless transformation. Yeah, for this case, of course. And if I didn't have this, yeah, just some transference of problems. Okay, folks. So yes, learning the process. So next thing, so you see, I'm again in the problem of leverage. Then, and this is what I'm trying to solve in an elegant way, right? You see, even with all these things, it's not that easy. I know, I have been through this. Oh, that looks simple. You go and try to wave paint. You start to face very peculiar problems, and the mesh starts to deform in wrong ways, and it's difficult to drive or bone constraint, make the automation that we want. We can't smooth out the mesh like we do with sculpting vertex groups. No, sorry, not vertex groups. I mean shape keys, right? Modeling even. So it gives some degree of precision, the wave painting over these different transforms of the bones, the helper bones, but it's quite complicated to achieve. Yeah. So what I'm really trying to achieve is find ways to have this work in elegant ways, because even this I wasn't able to make elegantly enough. The patterns are difficult to uncover, and so let's yes, let's try the replacement with the type thing, except that I will have to play with the spine in relation to the type. Yes. So what I'm going to do now, okay, this is the I'm gonna pause the video. We are going to, I'm gonna move back to the problem, to the experimentation, but with a completely different approach now. This one of the type with the spine, perhaps the knee. No, focus on and see what we can achieve from that. And so that will be radically different from that other one. Unfortunately, this is very complex problem, and so I still wasn't able to make a proof of concept how this can be, that object modifier, vertex weight mix, can actually be effective for typical organic rigging problems. But I won't give up, I'll continue investigating. I'm sure there are applications. Good, excellent applications, revolutionary applications. This is my intuition, so I just need, but I had to make the experiments in order to learn that the leverage systems, I mean the basis transforms mechanics of the rig must be doing something already to the mesh deforms in order to have some stuff to adjust with that. Alright, that's it folks. I'll be back soon with the new experiment, and hope you learned something and give you some insight in rigging in Blender. Happy blending, take care as always.